Hey friends, welcome. Thank you for joining me here today. I have a practice for plus size and bigger bodies. And so before you begin your practice, I invite you to grab some props just to help assist your practice. Here I have two yoga blocks. You can have one or two, whichever works best for you. In our practice today, we'll use both. I have a strap. This is a yoga strap, but you can have a bathrobe belt, any kind of belt, anything like that, anything that's sort of long. The strap can help extend our arms when they need to reach something. The blocks can help lift the earth up to us. And then I have a bolster. If you don't have a yoga bolster, you can also use a couple pillows, some blankets to stack on one another, just again to help lift the ground up to you. I always say our props are our friends, and so they're there to support us. They're there to help us when things might get a little bit difficult. And so, again, I've said this before, they're not cheating. Um, they're helping us make the pose accessible in our bodies, which is really what this whole practice is about today. And with that, just to start, plus plus size and bigger bodies are all different, just like all bodies are different. Um, and what's most important is that we celebrate those diversities and make way for them to exist. And so, oftentimes in our society, at least the one that I live in, we're often taught that our bodies are in some sort of deficit. So, something is wrong with us. And when we come from that space, we set our environment up and our lives up for this sort of deficit mindset that nothing is ever good enough. And we're always chasing almost an unattainable goal. And so I invite you with this practice to come to some level of acceptance. And I know acceptance is a practice, right? It takes time. It takes coming to over and over again. And really what acceptance is not necessarily loving our bodies every day, but being kind to them. And so that's what I invite you in your practice today. Sometimes we love our bodies, sometimes we don't love them, sometimes we're somewhere in between. But regardless of where we're at, how can we be kind to ourselves? And that's what I invite you to do today. So our props are not just our friends, they're also our friends because they're kind to us. So they help us be kind to our bodies. So here today, we're here to celebrate our bodies. We're here to make room for our bodies. We're here to love our bodies, and we're here to be kind to them. And so with that, let's get started moving. So to start, grab your strap. We're going to start reclined onto our back. Now, find your way there however you'd like, okay? And when you come down to your back, you can keep the soles of your feet on the ground. If you want to give your low back a little bit of a break, you can keep your both knees bent, or option to extend your legs towards the ground. I know with a little bit of extra body in the back here, it can lift your low back off the mat quite a bit. And so keeping your feet on the ground and your knees towards the sky pushes that back body down towards the ground more. So just so you kind of are aware of what's happening in your body. Take your strap and you're going to lift your right foot. And we're going to bring the strap around that foot. Now, if you have trouble bringing your leg towards your body, go ahead and move your belly out of the way and then bring your leg closer. We're going to bring the strap around our leg and we're just going to lift our leg up towards the sky. Now here you can keep both straps and both ends of the strap in each hand. Or if you have an actual yoga strap, you can weave it together so that you create one long sort of circle strap. Now, keeping a slight bend in the knee here, we just want to pull gently on our leg. So we're just getting some movement in our hamstrings. You can even bend and extend the leg a little bit here just to start getting some movement. Just starting to get some synovial fluid moving in the joints, warming up those muscles, those ligaments. You notice I'm keeping the other leg bent here, again, helping my body, helping my low back stay towards the ground. And go ahead if you'd like to come towards stillness. If you want to keep making the pose dynamic and moving, you're welcome to do that too. This is your practice. And just take some breaths here. Really feeling that hamstring stretch, getting into the breath. When you're ready, we're going to go ahead and release here. And we're going to bring the strap, slipping it off the foot around the front of the knee, and just pull the knee towards the body. It doesn't need to touch, right? But you might notice your low belly touching your thigh and kind of getting in the way a little bit maybe. But again, we choose kindness here. We choose love for our body. So we just make some room for ourselves. You could take that left hand onto that belly and just move it on the inside of that right thigh, giving yourself a little bit of space here. Pulling the knee as close to the body as you can get it. Again, it's not about what the pose looks like. It's about what it feels like. So just getting a little stretch here. And then we're going to release and bring that right ankle on top of that left knee. Now, option to stay here. You can press with your hand that right knee away from you, feeling that stretch wherever you're feeling it. You might feel it in your hips, your low back, the outside of that hip. Okay, just notice where you're feeling it here and come to your breath. Noticing our bodies and paying attention to them and what they need in each moment is a great place to start with being kind to yourself. So here I ask myself, what do I need? What do I need? What do I need? What do I need? And then listen for the answer. My body needs me to stay here. Or maybe your body wants to come into reclined pigeon pose. So check in with yourself again. Okay, we're going to take our strap and we're going to wrap it around that left thigh. Okay, coming into pigeon. And we're going to bring that right ankle back on top of that left knee. And we'll just use our strap to pull our legs towards our body. Now, again, we're not wrangling our bodies here. We're being kind. We're just pulling the leg towards the body. I invite you to keep that left foot flexed. The reason is it keeps that leg engaged. And so instead of just kind of hanging out here, it's not doing anything, it stays engaged. So it's helping to press that right leg towards the body. Again, option to take your hand and wiggle your belly and your body in between your thighs. And just staying here feeling that pigeon pose. Feel where you're feeling it. If this feels really intense and you're like, not today, friend, release and come back into that first pose I showed you where you're not pulling that left leg towards your body. Just keeping that foot on the ground. This is where you stop being competitive with yourself and rather kind and choosing what you need at that moment. Taking a few breaths here. Really using our breath to stay present, especially if that pose feels intense. And just like our body is placed in certain places, placing our eyes on something as well or closing them down, whichever feels best. When you're ready, go ahead and take a deep inhale and exhale, release that left foot. Taking that strap out from the side. And we're going to take it to the other side here. So bringing that left foot towards the body, wrapping that strap around it and lifting it up towards the sky. To start, we'll just take some bending in the knee and lifting it up towards the sky. If keeping the leg towards the body isn't available, you can kick it out in front too. Both are the same movement. Doesn't matter how close it is to the body. Remembering your breath here, taking deep inhales and exhales. And then option to stay. You can kick your leg out forward or you can bring it up closer to your body, taking your hand and moving your belly on the inside of that left thigh, making room for yourself, taking up space. I know oftentimes people like myself in bigger bodies don't want to take up space. We're used to taking up space. And we kind of don't want to, some of us, right? I know I get into that tendency, but again, practicing acceptance and kindness. How do we give ourselves the space that we need to take up? Definitely a practice. but definitely worth it. When you're ready, go ahead and release that. We're going to bring that strap, slip it off that foot, bring it around the front of that left knee, and just pull that left knee towards the body. Again, taking that belly, moving it out of the way, making some room. Just getting some movement in those hips, in the leg, and the hamstring. And then if it's available to you, you can bring that left ankle onto that right knee. Taking the hand here and pressing it away. Also an option, as you're doing that, to take a block here and press the knee away. So what that does is, again, it's our friend. It helps us. It supports us. It helps us if my hand doesn't quite reach, and there's a big reach here. I can almost not reach. So I'm going to place a block here and help me extend my arm to reach my knee. So a great way to use our props to help make our practice loving to our bodies and kind. Option to stay here in this pose or move on to your pigeon, taking your strap and wrapping it around the back of that right leg, bringing that left ankle on top of that right knee again, and bringing that right leg towards center with your strap. Now again, keeping that right foot flexed keeps that right leg engaged. Those muscles are working to help keep our leg up towards our body. And that's what we want. Coming to your breath here, feeling the pose where you're feeling it. You might be feeling it in your hip, especially in that outer left hip here. Take one last breath cycle here, inhaling. And on your exhale, release that right foot to the mat, unravel that left foot, bringing your strap out from under you, and we'll turn over onto our right side. So just gently turning over, using that left hand to help lift us up to seated. Coming towards the center of your mat, we'll just come to seated here. Now, even here in a seated Sukhasana, this is called easy pose, although for many people it's not easy in our bodies. Even here, I like to move the flesh out of the way, allowing the sit bones to ground down into the earth. I also, if you're in a bigger body, placing something under your hips to help lift them up off the ground and above the knees will help take some pressure off those knees as well. So lots of options here. If your belly is hitting the sides or the top of your thigh, you can kind of shimmy it forward and in towards center and give yourself a little bit of room. We're going to take a gentle twist to each side here. So I'll give you a few options as always, and you get to choose. So to start with, we're going to bring our right arm back and behind us. I always like to tent my fingers to bring the earth up to me, or you can use your friend, your block. You can bring your left hand to your right knee and twist here. If you feel your body in the way, you can take your hand and move it on the inside of that arm. So we're moving it and shifting it out of the way. Same thing with your belly. You can lift up and lift it however you need to give it some room. Now, if that's still not working, no worries. Another option. Keep that left hand and extend it long and press it into that left leg. So then you give your whole body space to twist. Now really pressing into that outer hand and forearm, pressing and making sure to keep the shoulders rolled down and then twisting. A reminder here, all of these poses, all of the options that I gave you are the same pose. They're just different variations. I don't use the word modification because it insinuates that you're modifying a pose that should look a certain way. And that's not fair to our bodies. Poses should look any way they need to, as long as they're safe and as long as they feel okay. So poses can be challenging, right? They can challenge our muscles and our balance and everything like that, but they shouldn't hurt. They shouldn't feel uncomfortable in that way. And so that's why I use the word variation, not modification. When you're ready, release your last exhale and come towards center. We're going to take it to the other side. I'll go through those versions one more time. So we're twisting our torso to the left this time. Hand can come to block or the ground, tented fingers, whichever feels good. Option to extend that right arm against that right knee and twist. Option to bring the right hand to the left knee and using the opposite hand to move the body on the inside of that arm. Moving the hand to move the belly on the inside of that thigh, and then twisting. So a couple options here. You choose. On your exhales, releasing into the pose, letting yourself be here, coming to present, using your breath to help. So if you're ever in a yoga class and there's a teacher that might not be quite sure how to offer variations for your body, I hope this helps. I hope you have the agency and feel empowered to leave this practice today and have some options for your body when you move. Take one breath cycle here. And when you exhale, turning back towards center. Now we're going to make our way standing to the top of our mat in Tadasana, mountain pose. So I'm going to give you a couple options. First, you can make your way standing to however you like. Okay, so let's start there. But I'm going to give you a few options. First, you can roll over onto your knees. That's where most of them start. You can use a chair to help press into and lift yourself up. You can use some blocks, swing your leg around, tuck those back toes, and press yourself up to standing. Okay. I'm going to keep my blocks here. I invite you to as well. I always like to keep them right on the side of my mat or right up at the edge corners here, and we're going to be using them. Now, coming into Tadasana, I know as a person in a bigger body, I like my Tadasana where my feet are hips width distance, so stacked right under my hips, or a little bit wider apart. We're going to be folding forward today, and so with that comes our belly touching our thighs often. And so I invite you to begin with your feet a little bit wider to make room for your body. Also, wider feet means a wider stance and more stability. Okay, so for bigger bodies, that's always good. Giving ourselves a little bit of stance, taking up space here, right? So we'll come to our Tadasana, strong mountain pose here, pressing into all corners of the feet, slight bend in the knees, hips stacked over the ankles. We're going to pick our shoulders up and roll them onto our back and tuck our chin slightly. Our hands can be to our sides or palms facing forward in a gesture of receiving and giving. We're strong here, coming to our breath. We're going to move a little bit here. I'll go slow and mindfully so that we can make room for our bodies as we move and using our props. When you're ready, we'll take our arms out to the side and up above the head. Slight back bend here. Exhale, we're going to hinge at the hips and bow forward, coming into a forward fold. Now, widen your feet as wide as you need here and pick up your belly just like we did when we're seated and shimmy it in between your thighs, okay? And it doesn't matter how far you fold forward, just that you go in that direction. You can straighten the legs or bend them, whichever feels good for you. So we're in our Uttanasana here, forward fold, okay? So our spines are straight as they can be. Our head is bowing towards the ground. We're making room for our bellies. My hands are on blocks just to lift the earth up to me, remembering to be kind to ourselves. Here we'll take a halfway lift. So we're going to straighten our legs and our spine, coming into kind of an L shape with our body. You can even stack the blocks higher. Okay, our head is straight, spine long. Exhale, forward fold. allowing the spine to come down. You can even bend in the legs here a little bit if you'd like. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhaling, straightening, coming into that L shape with the body. Exhale, bowing forward. Again, maybe you want to bend in the legs and make room for that belly. Let it slide in between those legs. 1 more time, inhaling. This time, exhaling, forward fold. We're going to come into a down dog. So I'm going to bring my blocks down. I'm going to keep my hands on blocks. I'm going to step back as far as I can with my right foot. And then as far as I can with my left foot, coming into down dog here. Now, blocks are really nice to lift the earth up to you, but they also make space if you need to step forward, okay? We're not going to be stepping forward today, but just something to offer here. So really coming into your down dog, pressing into those feet, maybe bending the knees and lengthening the spine, pressing back into the hands. Really taking a moment here to just allow your down dog to give you some space. Maybe you're feeling it in your back body, your hips. And then on an exhale, we're going to bring our knees down to the ground, coming into tabletop. We're going to come into Anjaneyasana. If you know low lunge, excuse me, if you know where you're going, go ahead and find your way there. A nice variation to choose as you're coming into Anjaneyasana is to swing your foot out to the side and around and heel toe your foot up towards the top of the mat. Now, excuse me, with Anjaneyasana, same thing you're going to experience here probably as our Uttanasana, our forward fold. Our belly is going to eventually come in contact with that thigh. Not a big deal. We're going to sandwich our hand in there and move the belly in towards center. Excuse me. Now I invite you here in Anjaneyasana to take a wider stance. So oftentimes that knee and right foot is directly in line straight ahead with the hip. If you need a little bit more room for your belly, widen that foot out to the side a little bit. We're widening our stance like we did in Tadasana. That makes room for the body, and that also provides more stability. Okay? So here we are. I'm using my blocks to lift the ground up to me, and that helps me lengthen my spine. So if my hands are on the ground, sometimes we tend to round in, right? What we want is a long spine. We want our blocks, our friends, to help support us. Okay, so we're in Anjaneyasana here, really leaning into that front knee. We're going to come into Ardha Hanumanasana, so half split. So I'm going to pick up that right block and bring it on the outside right side of my foot. And I'm going to walk my blocks back as I begin to extend and sit that hip back towards the heel and extend that right foot. Okay. As much as we can, our hip is staying stacked over that left, in line with that left knee, so straight, because we really want that pose to be into the right leg and getting into that right leg. We want to keep a bend in that right knee. Those toes, that foot is flexed, similar to how we were when we were in reclined pigeon, keeping the leg engaged. We're not just hanging out here. We're engaged. Our spines are long. Our blocks are helping us keep our spines long. We're going to walk our blocks back towards the top, coming into Anjaneyasana. Tuck those back toes and begin to rise up off that back knee. We're going to come into wide leg forward fold. So you can walk your blocks on the inside of that right foot and pivot both sets of toes towards the left side of the mat, coming into wide leg forward fold. Now, option to keep your blocks here, or bring your hands down to the ground, keeping a slight bend in the knees. The toes are slightly turned in, heels slightly out. And here again, we can shimmy our belly in between our legs if we'd like. Option to take halfway lifts here like we did when we were in forward fold. Inhaling, straightening the spine, straightening the legs. Exhaling as we bow. And as you bow, you might notice a deeper stretch in those hamstrings. Take an inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bow. Inhale one more time, halfway lift. This time as we exhale, we'll come back into towards the top of our mat, framing our front foot with those blocks, moving the belly if we need, popping ourselves up towards standing, feet wide. We inhale as we rise up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Take a moment here in your Tadasana Taking several deep inhales and exhales. Let's try the other side now. We'll inhale our arms up above the head, remembering to hinge at the hips as we bow forward, widening the feet if you need to make room for the belly. Using our hands on blocks or the ground, we'll take a halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Halfway lift. Inhaling and then exhaling, fold. Inhale, halfway lift here. Exhale, we'll step back into down dog. This time I invite you to lead with your left foot and then right. Really pressing into those hands, so we press the hips up towards the sky and bending in those knees generously if you need. What's more important is that our spine is long here. Taking some deep inhales and exhales, especially if this pose feels intense. It can, definitely. On your next exhale, bringing the knees towards the ground, coming into a tabletop. Now I invite you to start. We're going to come into Anjaneyasana. Again, if you know where you're going, find your way there. I like to bring both sets of blocks off the right side of my mat. And this time I'm going to swing my left leg out to the side and slowly heel toe my foot up towards the top of the mat. Now, again, I usually keep my foot out towards the left a little bit more. Stability, space. If you'd like, you can lift that left block and bring it on the outside of that left foot, framing that front foot. We'll stay here for a moment. And on our next inhale, we're going to walk our blocks back so we come into Ardha Hanumanasana. So we're going to straighten that front leg, keeping a bend in that knee. And you'll notice I tipped my blocks. They were sideways. I tipped them on the high setting so that I can extend my spine while at the same time getting a stretch in that leg. Okay. If my hands were down, I'd be rounding my back, right? So we want to stay up as possible. Take an inhale here. Exhale, come forward. Walk your blocks if you'd like. Take them for a little walk, a little stroll. Leaning as deeply as you can in that front knee. If you're here and your legs are square and you're feeling a stretch, then that is as far as you go, right? Pose doesn't need to look away. We need to go as far as we can feel the stretch. On our inhale, we're going to walk back one more time. Exhale, we're going to come forward. This time, we're going to tuck those back toes, really grounding down into our block and lift that back knee. We're going to pivot both sets of toes towards the right side of the mat, coming into our wide leg forward fold. Toes in a little, heels slightly out to give ourselves a little bit more stability, slight bend in the knees. Take a few halfway lifts here. Lift up, extend the spine, the shoulders come over the wrists. Exhale, sit back, the heels sit back towards the back of that mat. Inhaling forward, extending the spine long. Exhaling back. One more time, inhale long. Exhale back. On our next inhale, we're going to turn both sets of toes towards the top of the mat, and we're going to press ourselves up to standing. We start forward fold. We rise, arms overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Take a few moments here. Take several deep inhales and exhales. We are going to try that one more time on each side. We're going to move only just a little bit quicker now that you kind of know what we're doing, and we'll add on just a couple poses at the end just to bring in a little bit of extra challenge in our bodies. One of the things that many people get wrong about us bigger and plus size people and bigger bodies is that we can't do hard things, and we can. And you know if you're in a bigger body that your body can handle a lot of things. It is very strong. So even though we're doing all different kinds of variations, choosing kindness for yourself is choosing strength. and our bodies are very capable. When you're ready, we're going to start moving. Take an inhale and arms up above the head, slight back bend here. Exhale, we hinge at the hips, bowing forward. If your belly comes to your thighs, widen your stance here, heel toe. Take a halfway lift, inhaling. Exhale, bow. One more time, halfway lift. Exhale, we're going to come into downward dog. So adjust your blocks if you need. Step back with the right foot first and then the left. Take an inhale here. Exhale, come forward so the wrists come over the shoulders and bring your knees towards the ground. We'll come into Anjaneyasana with the right leg. Swinging the right leg around, heel toeing it up towards the top of the mat. Moving that belly inside of that thigh. Framing that front foot with the block, we'll take an inhale and walk our blocks back to Anjaneyasana. We'll exhale, walk them forward. Into Anjaneyasana. We'll inhale and walk them back to Ardha Hanumanasana. Exhale, coming forward here. We're going to tuck those back toes and lift that back foot. Pivot both sets of toes towards the left side edge of the mat. Coming into forward fold here. Take an inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and fold. One more time, inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, we'll turn both sets of toes towards the top of the mat. Now this time, listen up, we're going to stay here. We're going to extend that front leg. So we're getting a nice hamstring stretch, pyramid pose. So our hips are going to sit back, both legs are going to come towards straight. They don't need to be completely straight. And in fact, we want to keep a slight bend in both knees. And our bodies are going to bow forward over that front leg. Now, what you're going to experience here is maybe what you've experienced in some other poses. Your body is going to hit your thigh. Take your hand, bring it on the inside, and move that belly on the inside of that right thigh so that you can fold forward more. Again, our blocks are our friends. They're helping support us. They're helping lift the earth up to us. You might be feeling a nice calf stretch in that back leg and a nice hamstring stretch in that front leg. As best we can, our hips are square towards the top of the mat. They won't be fully square because our legs are not in line with one another. Take an inhale here. And exhale, we're going to pop our left foot up to meet our right. We'll inhale and rise here. Exhale, hands to heart center. Take 3 breath cycles here. A breath cycle is inhaling and exhaling. Remembering there's no rush, taking up space here, allowing yourself to move as your body needs to. When you're ready, release the arms and we'll inhale them up overhead. Slight back bend. Exhale, we forward fold, widening the feet. Taking a halfway lift. Exhaling, folding. Keeping a slight bend in those knees. One more time, inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, step back as far as you can with that left foot. Back with that right, coming into down dog. Take an inhale here. And then exhale, we'll come into tabletop. Set your blocks up so that you can shimmy that left foot out and around, heel toe up towards the top of the mat, framing that front foot with the blocks. Go ahead and move that belly on the inside of that left thigh. Take an inhale here and exhale. And on our inhale, we'll sit our hips back, extending that front leg, making sure that it is engaged with those toes towards the sky. Blocks helping us stay stable, keeping our spines long. We exhale as we come forward into Anjaneyasana, as far as in deep as you can into that front leg until you feel a stretch. You'll feel a stretch in that right leg too, the front of it most likely. If you don't, no worries. Inhale back. Ardha Hanumanasana, half splits. Exhale one more time forward. Using our blocks as leverage, tucking those back toes, we'll lift that back knee and we'll pivot ourselves towards the right long edge side of the mat, coming into forward fold. Take a halfway lift here. Exhale and fold, sitting those hips back. One more time, inhale. Our exhale will bring us back towards the top of the mat, but listen up here, we'll come into pyramid. So we're on train tracks here, so our feet aren't aligned. Help your body on the inside of your left thigh. You might need to move both. Our legs are coming extended. They don't need to be completely straight, but we're keeping a slight bend in those knees. Our spines are long, so we can set our blocks up to the high setting too if we need. Our bodies can bow forward over that front leg. Taking a few inhales and exhales here, pulling back on that left hip so that our hips come towards square. Release your last exhale here. And on an inhale, press yourself up, lifting that right foot to meet the left. Exhale. Inhale, rise slowly. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms come up above the head, slight back bend here. Exhale, forward fold. Widen the feet. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step back into down dog. You lead with whichever foot you feel like. Exhale, we'll come into tabletop. And this time we'll come into our final pose, our balasana. So I'm grabbing my bolster here, or your pillows and blankets. Our knees are going to come as wide as the yoga mat, our toes together. And we're going to set up. If you have blankets and blocks, you're going to want to set them up, stacked up so that they're high enough. You can use some blocks and blankets on the top too, and pillows. The blocks will help lift things up towards your body. And we're going to slide our bolster or blankets and blocks right close to our body, right at the space where our knees are, in line with our knees. We can walk our body forward, laying it down, sitting our hips back towards our heels, and allowing our torso and body to come towards the mat, and making any adjustment you need, picking your body up and moving it around the bolster to help make space for your body. Now, Balasana, child's pose that we're in bigger bodies, without something to lift up towards the mat, there's a big space here often, and the pose can feel uncomfortable. So again, being kind to our bodies and making the space that we need, and using our props as our friends to help lift us up. Resting here, you can bring the hands alongside or open above. Taking some deep inhales and exhales to allow yourself to settle into your practice. Staying here for as long as you'd like. Option to make your way to Shavasana. Now in Shavasana too, several ways to make the pose comfy in your body. You can take blocks or your bolster right up against your bottom here, your sit bones, and allowing them to lift your legs up so that you can lay back. Another option here, if you don't want to use your bolster, is to bring the soles of the feet to the mat, mats width distance apart, and let the knees fall in together. You can also keep the feet in line with your hips. So several options here. Again, because the back body has some extra cushioning back there, it can often be hard for the body to lay comfortably on the back. And so this just is a few options to help Shavasana feel good in your body. I invite you to stay in your Shavasana for as long as you'd like, remembering that it is our final resting pose to help integrate all of our practice and what we've learned. As a reminder, we don't have to love our bodies every day, but the practice is to be kind and to remember to take up space, honor ourselves, and allow ourselves to be as we are. I hope this practice helped. Thank you so much for joining me. May you be well.